Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, My Sister Used My Past Mistakes to Sabotage My Relationship. Marissa and I had always had a complicated relationship, teetering between sibling love and intense rivalry. I just never imagined she'd go so far as to use my past against me. My name's Nicole and I'm 28 years old. Marissa is 2 years younger than me at 26. Growing up, we were close, in that way that sisters often are, sharing clothes, gossiping about boys, and confiding our deepest secrets to each other. But there was always an undercurrent of competition between us. Marissa was the pretty one, the popular one. She breezed through school with an effortless charm that drew people to her. I was more of an introvert, burying myself in books and focusing on my studies. Our parents tried to not play favorites, but it was clear they were captivated by Marissa's bright personality. As we got older, the differences between us only grew more pronounced. Marissa was always surrounded by friends and admirers, while I struggled with social anxiety. She jumped from relationship to relationship, never seeming to lack for male attention. I, on the other hand, had a string of awkward first dates that rarely led anywhere. I think that's partly why I fell so hard for Derek when I met him in my junior year of college. He was everything I'd been looking for, kind, intelligent, and genuinely interested in me as a person. For the first time, I felt truly seen and appreciated for who I was. Derek and I dated all through college and for a couple of years after graduation. I was sure he was the one, and we often talked about marriage, but then came the incident that would haunt me for years to come. It was at a mutual friend's birthday party. I had way too much to drink and ended up making out with one of Derek's friends. It didn't go further than that, but Derek walked in on us. He was devastated, and rightfully so. I'd betrayed his trust in the worst way. We broke up shortly after. I was heartbroken and filled with guilt. I tried to explain, to apologize, but Derek wanted nothing to do with me. I spiraled into a deep depression, barely able to function for months. Marissa was actually surprisingly supportive during that time. She listened to me cry and vent, assuring me that one mistake didn't define me. "We all mess up sometimes," she'd say. "You'll find someone even better, just wait and see." It took nearly 2 years, but I eventually started to heal and move on. I threw myself into my career as a graphic designer and slowly rebuilt my self-esteem. When I felt ready to date again, I decided to try a dating app. That's how I met Ralph. From our very first date, there was an instant connection. He was funny, charming, and we shared so many common interests. As we continued seeing each other, I felt myself falling hard and fast. About 6 months into our relationship, I decided it was time for Ralph to meet my family. I was nervous. My parents could be a bit judgmental, and Marissa had a way of monopolizing attention. But I wanted the people I cared about most to know each other. The dinner started off well enough. My parents seemed to like Ralph, and he handled their probing questions with grace and humor. Marissa was uncharacteristically quiet at first, studying Ralph intently. As we were finishing up the main course, Marissa suddenly turned to Ralph with a big smile, asking if he had heard about my college boyfriend. I tensed immediately. Marissa knew how painful that topic was for me. I'd confided in her about my lingering guilt and regret. Why was she bringing this up now? I tried to say something, but she steamrolled right over me. You see, Nicole and Derek were together for years. Everyone thought they'd get married, but then Nicole got drunk at a party and cheated on him with his best friend. Totally broke poor Derek's heart. The table fell silent. I felt the blood drain from my face as Ralph turned to look at me, his expression unreadable. That's not exactly how it happened," I stammered. "It was just a kiss. And I was really drunk. It was a terrible mistake that I've regretted ever since." Marissa laughed lightly. "Oh, come on, sis. No need to downplay it. We all know it was more than just a kiss. Didn't Derek walk in on you two half naked?" "Marissa," my mother finally interjected, "that's quite enough. This is hardly appropriate dinner conversation." But the damage was done. I could see the doubt and hurt in Ralph's eyes. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of awkward small talk and tense silences. On the drive home, Ralph was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Why didn't you tell me about what happened with your ex?" I gripped the steering wheel tightly. "It's not something I'm proud of. I made a horrible mistake that I've spent years regretting. I was planning to tell you eventually, but I wanted to wait until the right time." Ralph sighed. "I appreciate your honesty now, but I wish I'd heard it from you first, instead of your sister. It makes me wonder what else you might be hiding." "Nothing," I insisted. "Ralph, I swear. That was the only time I've ever done anything like that. It was completely out of character for me, and I've never stopped feeling guilty about it." He nodded slowly. "I believe you, but I think I need some time to process this. Can you drop me off at my place? My heart sank, but I understood. Of course, take all the time you need. The next few days were agonizing. Ralph and I texted a bit, but things felt strained. I was furious with Marissa for blindsiding me like that. When I confronted her about it, she acted innocent. I couldn't believe her audacity. When she refused to see the reason, I became too angry to continue the conversation. I left her house seething, unsure if our relationship would ever recover from this betrayal. A week after the disastrous dinner, Ralph asked me to meet up. My stomach was in knots as I waited for him at our favorite coffee shop. When he arrived, his expression was serious. We shared a long conversation about the necessity of trust and communication in our relationship, and we settled on the conclusion that there would be no more secrets between us. I was grateful for his understanding, and as we left the coffee shop, I felt cautiously optimistic, but I should have known Marissa wouldn't let things go that easily. A few weeks later, Ralph and I were slowly finding our rhythm again. We'd been having long, deep conversations about our past, our fears, and our hopes for the future. I really felt like we were growing closer and stronger as a couple. Then came the text that changed everything. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a message from Ralph. "We need to talk. Can you come over after work?" My heart immediately started racing. Those 4 words, "we need to talk," rarely preceded anything good. I spent the rest of the workday in a fog of anxiety, imagining worst-case scenarios. When I got to Ralph's apartment that evening, he looked grim. Without preamble, he held out his phone to me. "Care to explain this?" On the screen was a series of text messages, apparently between me and Derek's friend, the one I'd kissed at that fateful party years ago. The texts were flirtatious, even explicit at times. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Ralph, I swear to you, these aren't real. I haven't talked to him in years." Ralph's jaw clenched. "So you're saying these are fake?" "Because they look pretty damn real to me. They even have your number." "I don't know how this happened, but I promise you, I did not send these messages," I insisted, my mind racing. Suddenly, a horrible thought occurred to me. "Wait, how did you get these?" He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Your sister sent them to me. Said she thought I should know what kind of person I was really dating." And in that moment, everything clicked into place. The setup at dinner, and now this. Marissa wasn't just stirring up old drama. She was actively trying to sabotage my relationship. I tried to convince him of it, and I think that on some level, he wanted desperately to believe me. But it was clear that this hope might not be enough to convince his mind. My heart sank as I realized what he was saying. "So, what does this mean for us?" Ralph sighed heavily. I think we need to take a break. I care about you, Nicole, but right now there are too many doubts, too many questions. I need time to sort through all of this." I felt like my world was crumbling around me. "Ralph, please, don't let Marissa win like this. We can walk through this together. I know we can." He stood up, his expression pained. "I'm sorry, Nicole. I just need some space right now. I'll call you in a few days." In a daze, I gathered my things and left his apartment. As soon as I got to my car, I broke down in heaving sobs. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? The next few days were a blur of misery and anger. I fluctuated between wanting to beg Ralph for another chance and wanting to confront Marissa for her betrayal. In the end, I decided to focus on proving my innocence. I went to my phone provider and obtained detailed records of all my texts and calls for the past 6 months. As I'd known they would, they showed no communication whatsoever with Derek's friend. Armed with this evidence, I asked Ralph to meet me. He agreed, but his demeanor was cool and distant. When we met at a local park, I handed him the phone records without preamble. "These are my complete texts and call logs for the last 6 months, I explained. As you can see, there's no communication with him or any other suspicious numbers. The texts Marissa sent you were completely fabricated." Ralph studied the records for several long moments. When he looked up, his expression was troubled. "Nicole, I believed you, and I'm sorry for doubting you. But the fact remains that your sister went to extreme lengths to try to break us up. That's not normal sibling behavior. It makes me wonder what other issues might be lurking beneath the surface of your family dynamics." I felt a glimmer of hope at his words. "I know it's messed up, believe me. I'm furious with Marissa, and I plan to confront her about this. But Ralph, please don't let her actions destroy what we have. I love you, and I want to make this work." He was quiet for a long moment before responding. I care about you too, Nicole, but I think we both need to take a step back and reevaluate things. You clearly have some family issues to work through, and I need to do some soul searching about whether I'm ready for a relationship with this kind of baggage attached. My heart sank. So, is this it? Are we over? Ralph sighed heavily. I think we need to take a break, a real one this time, with no contact for at least a month. We both need time to process everything that's happened and decide if this relationship is truly what we want. Tears stung my eyes, but I nodded. I understand. For what it's worth, I'm so sorry for all of this. I never meant for my family drama to affect you like this. He gave me a sad smile. I know. Take care of yourself, Nicole. As I watched him walk away, I was filled with a mixture of grief and determination. I'd lost Ralph, at least for now, but I wasn't going to let Marissa's manipulations go unchallenged. The next day, I went to Marissa's apartment unannounced. When she opened the door, her eyes widened in surprise. I pushed past her into the apartment. Save it, Marissa. I know what you did. The fake texts, the ambush at dinner. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? I'm your sister. Marissa's surprise quickly morphed into defensiveness. I don't know what you're talking about. I was just trying to help you be honest with Ralph. If your relationship couldn't withstand a little truth, maybe it wasn't meant to be. I laughed bitterly. A little truth? You fabricated evidence to make it look like I was cheating. Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused? For a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by her usual bravado. Oh, please, if Ralph really loved you, he wouldn't have believed it so easily. Face it, Nicole, your relationship was doomed from the start. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I tried to reason with her, to ask why she was doing this, but all I really got were non-answers and justifications of what he'd done. She frowned. Whatever, what's done is done. If your precious Ralph can't handle a little family drama, you're better off without him anyway. I sighed, realizing this conversation wasn't going to get us anywhere. I hope someday you'll understand how much you've hurt me. And I hope you'll get help to deal with your own issues. But for now, I think it's best if we don't see each other for a while. As I left Marissa's apartment, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. The sister I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, and loved, despite our differences. She wasn't the person I thought she was. It was a painful realization, but also a freeing one. As the days turned into weeks, the silence between Ralph and me became deafening. I threw myself into work, hoping to distract myself from the gnawing emptiness in my chest. But every night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I couldn't escape the reality of what had happened. After 3 weeks of radio silence, I couldn't take it anymore. I texted Ralph, asking if we could talk. His response was swift and devastating. I'm sorry, Nicole, but I don't think there's anything left to say. This break has made me realize that we're better off apart. I wish you the best. I read and reread the message until my vision blurred with tears. It was over. Really, truly over. The relationship I had poured my heart and soul into had crumbled, all because of my sister's manipulations and my own failure to be honest from the start. The next few days passed in a blur of grief and anger. I alternated between wanting to beg Ralph for another chance and wanting to confront Marissa for destroying my happiness. In the end, I did neither. I knew that groveling wouldn't change Ralph's mind, and engaging with Marissa would only give her the satisfaction of seeing how much she'd hurt me. Instead, I decided to focus on healing and self-improvement. I started seeing a therapist to work through my trust issues and the complicated dynamics of my family relationships. It was hard, painful work, but slowly I began to see patterns in my behavior that had contributed to the downfall of my relationships with Ralph. I realized that my fear of vulnerability, stemming from the incident with Derek in college, had prevented me from being fully open with Ralph from the start. If I had told him about my past myself, instead of letting Marissa blindside us both, things might have turned out differently. As for Marissa, I made the difficult decision to cut her out of my life, at least temporarily. I couldn't continue to subject myself to her toxic behavior. When I informed our parents of my decision, they were upset but understanding. For the first time, I opened up to them about the long-standing rivalry between Marissa and me, and how it had affected my life and relationships. To my surprise, they listened with empathy and concern. My mother even admitted that they may have unintentionally contributed to the tension between us by comparing us to each other over the years. It wasn't a fix-all solution, but it felt like a step in the right direction. Months passed, and slowly, I began to feel like myself again. I threw myself into my graphic design work, taking on challenging projects that pushed my creative boundaries. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship with Ralph, and even made some new ones through a local art class I started attending. In the year that followed, I continued to work on myself. The therapy helped me understand the root of my trust issues and gave me tools to build healthier relationships in the future. I set clear boundaries with my family, including Marissa, who eventually and quietly reached out to apologize for her actions. Our relationship remained fragile, though we were slowly working towards reconciliation. I focused on my career, earning a promotion at work, and started to freelance on the side. I traveled, something I had always wanted to do but had to put off for various reasons. I made new friends and deepened existing friendships, building a support network that didn't revolve around a romantic partner. Slowly but surely, I began to recognize the woman in the mirror again. She was stronger now, more self-assured. She had weathered a storm and come out the other side, battered but not broken. When I finally felt ready to date again, I approached it with a new perspective. I was open about my past from the start, unafraid to show my vulnerabilities. I had learned that true connection comes from authenticity, not from presenting a perfect facade. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments of doubt, times when I questioned whether I was worthy of love. But I had learned to be kind to myself, to treat myself with the same compassion I would offer a friend. Looking back on the tumultuous events that had led me to this point, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The pain, the heartbreak, the self-doubt. It had all been a part of my journey. It had shaped me, challenged me, and ultimately made me stronger. I had learned that love, whether romantic, familial, or self-love, isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance, growth, and the courage to be vulnerable. It's about owning your mistakes and learning from them. It's about forgiveness of others and of yourself. As I stood on the precipice of this new chapter in my life, I felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. I had weathered the storm of heartbreak and betrayal and emerged stronger for it. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what it would bring. My sister's attempts to sabotage my relationship had led to pain and heartbreak, but they had also set me on a path of self-discovery and growth. The journey wasn't over, it never really is, but I was no longer afraid of the twists and turns it might take. I was ready to embrace life with open arms, secure in the knowledge that whatever may come my way, I had the strength and resilience to handle it. Here are my thoughts about the story. Man, I felt for Nicole right from the get-go. We've all had those relationships where we feel like we're living in someone else's shadow, and Nicole's dynamic with her sister Marissa hit way too close to home. It's like no matter what you do, you're always playing catch-up, you know? And when she finally finds someone who sees her for who she is, bam, she messes it up with that drunken mistake. I mean, who hasn't done something stupid when they were wasted? But the way it haunted her for years after, that's some heavy stuff. Now let's get to the real meat of this story. Marissa's betrayal. Holy crap, right? I mean, I've got siblings and sure, we've had our share of fights and petty moments, but fabricating text to break up your sister's relationship? That's some next level scheming right there. I was sitting here reading this and my jaw just kept dropping lower and lower, like, who does that? But here's the thing that really got me, the way Nicole handled it all. I mean, yeah, she was a mess at first, and honestly, who wouldn't be? But the way she picked herself up and decided to focus on self-empowerment, that's the kind of character development I live for in these stories. I've got to say, I was rooting for Nicole and Ralph to work things out. But when she said they needed to take a break, I was like, no, man, don't let Marissa win. But you know what? Maybe it was for the best. Sometimes you need to lose something to really understand its value, or to realize that it wasn't right for you in the first place. And then the man fully broke up with our girl. And I was ready to bash my own head against the wall, but whatever. The part that really hit me in the feels was when Nicole started working on herself. Therapy, setting boundaries, focusing on her career. That's the real glow up right there. It's not about getting revenge on Marissa or winning Ralph back. It's about becoming the best version of herself. And let's talk about that ending for a sec. The way Nicole comes out of all of this stronger and more self-assured, that's the kind of ending I love. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, Her relationship with Marissa is still complicated, and she's still dealing with the aftermath of everything, but she's facing it head on, with a new sense of who she is and what she's capable of. I say that, but I'm still a little miffed at how Marissa was allowed back into her life. Like, yeah, that's your sister, but damn, I probably wouldn't have had the capacity for that level of forgiveness. I'm sure she thoroughly apologized and made efforts to reconcile behind the scenes, but still, after that betrayal, is it really worth it to let her back into your life? But as long as it works out in the end for Nicole, it's fine, I suppose.
And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this.
My sister-in-law spread lies that destroyed my marriage. My name is Hannah, and I was married to my college sweetheart, Baron, for 8 wonderful years before everything fell apart. We met in our junior year when we were paired up as lab partners in organic chemistry. I was immediately drawn to Baron's quick wit and easygoing nature. He had a way of making even the most stressful study sessions fun. After a few months of flirting over Bunsen burners and molecular models, Baron finally worked up the courage to ask me out. Our first date was a disaster. The restaurant lost our reservation. It started pouring rain as we walked into the movie theater, and then the projector broke halfway through the film. But instead of calling it quits, we ended up laughing about our terrible luck over ice cream sundaes at a 24-hour diner. By the end of the night, I knew Baron was someone special. We dated all through college and got engaged shortly after graduation. Baron landed a great job as a software engineer while I went to law school. It was a busy, stressful few years as we juggled work, my studies, and wedding planning, but we made it through stronger than ever. We got married in a beautiful outdoor ceremony surrounded by our family and friends. It was truly the happiest day of my life. The first few years of marriage were blissful. Baron and I settled into a comfortable routine, advancing in our careers while still making time for date nights and weekend getaways. We talked about starting a family soon and bought our first home together. I really thought we had it all. The only cloud on the horizon was Baron's sister, Lindsay. From the moment we met, Lindsay seemed to take an instant dislike to me. She was cold and aloof at family gatherings, making snippy comments about everything from my career to my cooking skills. I tried my best to win her over, always being polite and going out of my way to include her, but nothing seemed to thaw the ice. Baron brushed off my concerns, saying Lindsay was just protective of her little brother and would come around eventually. I wanted to believe him, so I kept making an effort with Lindsay, even though her constant jabs were starting to wear me down. Things came to a head at Thanksgiving dinner 3 years ago. Baron and I were hosting for the first time in our new home, and I was determined to make everything perfect. I spent days cleaning, decorating, and preparing an elaborate meal. When Lindsay arrived, she immediately started nitpicking everything. "Oh, you're using that china? I'm surprised Baron let you handle such precious family heirlooms," she said with a sneer as I was sitting at the table. I gritted my teeth and forced a smile. Baron and I both love this china set. We're happy to use it for special occasions. Lindsay raised an eyebrow. "Well, just be careful. Those plates are irreplaceable." Her comments continued throughout dinner. She complained the turkey was dry, criticized my choice of wine, and made snide remarks about the quaint decor. I was near tears by the time dessert rolled around. As I was serving the pumpkin pie, my hand shook and I accidentally dropped a slice on the floor. Before I could clean it up, Lindsay pounced. "I knew we shouldn't trust Hannah with the good china," she exclaimed dramatically. "Look at this mess she's made. That's what happens when you let anyone into the family." I'd finally had enough. "What exactly is your problem with me, Lindsay? I've done nothing but try to be kind to you for years, and you've been nothing but nasty in return. What did I ever do to make you hate me so much?" The table fell silent as everyone stared at us in shock. Lindsay's face turned red with anger. "You want to know my problem?" she hissed. "My problem is that you're not good enough for my brother. You're just a gold digger who landed yourself a meal ticket. Baron deserves so much better than you." I was stunned, speechless. Baron jumped in to defend me, but Lindsay stormed out before he could say much. The rest of the evening was awkward and tense. That night, I broke down crying in Baron's arms. "I'm so sorry about Lindsay," he said, holding me tight. "I had no idea she felt that way. I'll talk to her and make sure she apologizes." I wanted to believe that would be the end of it, that Lindsay would realize how hurtful she'd been and we could start fresh. But it turned out to be just the beginning of her campaign to destroy my marriage. Over the next few months, Lindsay ramped up her attacks. She started calling Barron constantly, always with some supposed emergency that required his immediate attention. If he didn't answer right away, she'd blow up his phone with texts about how I must be controlling him and keeping him from his family. When we'd see Lindsay at family events, she'd make a big show of pulling Barron aside for private conversations, shooting me smug looks over her shoulder. I started to dread any gathering where she'd be present. But Lindsay's tactics weren't limited to family gatherings. She began spreading lies about me to anyone who would listen. It started small at first, little comments to mutual friends about how I was high maintenance or too difficult to get along with. But as time went on, her lies became more elaborate and damaging. She told Barron's cousins that I was a shopaholic, racking up secret credit card debt that was putting a strain on our marriage. To his co-workers, she hinted that I was lazy and taking advantage of Barron's success, painting me as a trophy wife who did nothing but spend his money all day. The worst was when she started telling people I was cheating on Barron. She claimed she'd seen me out with another man, looking cozy at a restaurant. In reality, it had been a business dinner with a client, but Lindsay twisted it into something sordid. These lies spread through our social circle like wildfire. I started noticing friends becoming distant, giving me odd looks at parties. Some of Barron's co-workers' wives stopped inviting me to get-togethers. I couldn't understand why until a close friend finally pulled me aside and told me what Lindsay had been saying. I was devastated. Not only were these accusations completely false, but they were damaging my reputation and relationships. I tried to defend myself, to set the record straight, but it felt like fighting a losing battle. Lindsay had a head start, and people seemed more inclined to believe juicy gossip than boring truth. Barron assured me he was setting boundaries with Lindsay, but I could see the constant drama was taking a toll on him. He seemed stressed and distracted all the time. We started arguing more as the tension from dealing with Lindsay spilled over into our relationship. Things came to a head when Barron's parents celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. The whole extended family gathered for a big party at their house. I offered to help with the planning and preparations, but Lindsay insisted on taking charge of everything. When we arrived at the party, I was horrified to see that Lindsay had used all our wedding photos as decorations, but she'd cut me out of every single one, leaving just images of Barron. "What is this?" I asked Barron in disbelief. He looked uncomfortable. I'm sure Lindsay didn't mean anything by it. She probably just couldn't find any good photos with both of us. I knew that wasn't true. We'd given his parents a beautiful album of wedding portraits as an anniversary gift just last year. There were plenty of photos of us together. This was a deliberate slight. I confronted Lindsay in the kitchen. "Why did you cut me out of all the wedding photos?" I demanded. She gave me a sickening sweet smile. "Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought it would be nice to have a display focused on the family, you understand. I'm Barron's wife. I am family," I said through gritted teeth. Lindsay's smile turned cold. "For now, maybe, but we both know it's only a matter of time before Barron comes to his senses and leaves you." I was speechless with shock and anger. Before I could respond, Barron's mom came into the kitchen asking for help bringing out more drinks. Lindsay immediately switched to a cheerful, helpful demeanor like nothing had happened. I spent the rest of the party in a daze, fighting back tears. When I told Barron what Lindsay had said, he accused me of overreacting and twisting her words. We had a huge fight on the drive home. Looking back now, I can see how Lindsay's constant manipulations were driving a wedge between us. But at the time, I was too hurt and defensive to handle things rationally. Instead of presenting a united front against Lindsay's attacks, Barron and I turned on each other. The final straw came a few months later. Barron and I had been trying to conceive for about a year with no luck. We'd started fertility testing to see if there were any issues. I confided in my other sister-in-law about our struggles, swearing her to secrecy. I thought I could trust her since she'd always been kind to me, unlike Lindsay. Big mistake. She had told Lindsay, who wasted no time weaponizing that private information. One Sunday, we were having brunch with Barron's family when Lindsay started talking loudly about her friend who was pregnant with her third child. "It's just so wonderful how fertile she is," Lindsay gushed, staring pointedly at me. "Some women are just natural mothers, I guess. They don't have any trouble conceiving." I felt my face flush with humiliation. Barron squeezed my hand under the table. "Of course, some women aren't meant to be mothers," Lindsay continued. "If you can't even manage to get pregnant, it's probably nature's way of saying you shouldn't have kids." "Lindsay, that's enough," Barron said sharply. But she wasn't done. "I'm just saying, if Hannah can't give you children, You might want to rethink things. Baron, you've always wanted to be a dad. Don't let her hold you back from that. I stood up abruptly, my chair screeching against the floor. Excuse me? I choked up before fleeing to the bathroom. I locked the door and slid to the floor, sobbing. How dare Lindsay use our fertility struggle against me like that? And how did she even know about it? The only person I told was my other sister-in-law. When I emerged from the bathroom, red-eyed and shaking, I found Baron and Lindsay in a heated argument. How could you say those awful things? Baron was demanding. You had no right to bring up our private business like that. Lindsay put on an innocent expression. What private business? I was just making conversation about my friend's pregnancy. If Hannah is so sensitive about it, maybe that says more about her own issues. Don't play dumb, I snapped. You knew exactly what you were doing. Your sister told you about our fertility problems, didn't she? Lindsay's eyes widened in foul surprise. She didn't tell me anything. Hannah, are you having trouble getting pregnant? Oh, you poor thing. No wonder you got so upset. I had no idea. I wanted to scream in frustration at her blatant lying, but a small part of me wondered, had I misunderstood her? Had I somehow let our struggle slip in conversation without realizing? Let's just go, Baron said tiredly. We'll talk about this later. The drive home was tense and silent. That night, we had the biggest fight of our marriage. I can't believe you're taking Lindsay's side again, I yelled. She deliberately brought up our fertility issues to humiliate me. You don't know that for sure, Baron argued. Maybe it really was just an unfortunate coincidence. You're being paranoid. Paranoid? Your sister had been trying to come between us for years. Why can't you see that? We went around circles for hours, voices getting louder and more hostile. In the heat of the moment, I said some things I regret about Baron always choosing his sister over me. He fired back that I was trying to isolate him from his family. We went to bed angry that night, sleeping as far apart as possible. It was the beginning of the end for us. Over the next few months, our relationship deteriorated rapidly. Every interaction with Lindsay led to a huge fight between us. Baron accused me of seeing slights where there were none. I felt like he was constantly invalidating my feelings and siding with his sister. Meanwhile, Lindsay's campaign of lies intensified. She started telling family members that I was emotionally abusive to Baron, controlling his every move and isolating him from loved ones. She claimed I was pressuring Baron to quit his job and move across the country, away from his family. None of this was true, but Lindsay's act was convincing. She'd put on a concerned face and say things like, I'm just so worried about Baron. Hannah's changed him. He's not the same person anymore. The lies spread to our professional lives too. Somehow, Lindsay got in touch with some of my colleagues at the law firm. She fed them stories about how I was unstable, prone to angry outbursts at home. She implied that I was struggling with substance abuse issues, showing up to work hungover or high. These were complete fabrications, but they planted seeds of doubt in my coworkers' minds. I started noticing whispers when I walked into the office. Partners began leaving me off important cases. My career, which I'd worked so hard to build, was suddenly in jeopardy because of Lindsay's lies. The final blow came when I discovered Baron had been confiding in Lindsay about our marital problems. She'd been filling his head with more lies, telling him I was unstable and manipulative. She convinced him I was trying to turn him against his family. When I confronted Baron about talking to Lindsay behind my back, he didn't even try to deny it. He said he needed someone to talk to, and Lindsay was just trying to help. I felt utterly betrayed. If you trust your sister more than you trust your wife, then maybe we shouldn't be married anymore, I said coldly. Baron's face fell. Maybe you're right, he said quietly. Just like that, 8 years of marriage crumbled to dust. We separated that week and filed for divorce soon after. I was in shock, unable to believe this was really happening. How had things fallen apart so quickly? The divorce process was ugly. Lindsay convinced Baron I was after his money, so he fought me on every financial issue. She spread rumors among our friend group that I'd been unfaithful, turning many of them against me. I lost my husband, my in-laws, and a good chunk of my social circle in one fell swoop. Lindsay's lies even affected the divorce proceedings. She convinced Baron to hire a cut-throat lawyer who tried to paint me as an unstable gold digger in court. They brought up Lindsay's fabricated stories about my supposed substance abuse and emotional instability, trying to use them as leverage in the settlement negotiations. I had to fight tooth and nail just to get a fair division of assets. The stress was overwhelming. There were days I could barely get out of bed, crushed by the weight of everything I'd lost and the constant battle to defend myself against Lindsay's lies. In the end, I managed to secure a reasonable settlement, but the emotional cost was enormous. My reputation was in tatters, my career was struggling, and my faith in relationships was shattered. It's been 2 years since the divorce was finalized, and I'm still struggling to put my life back together. I threw myself into work, eventually making partner at my law firm, despite the setbacks caused by Lindsay's lies. On the surface, I'm successful and thriving, but inside, I'm still raw and bruised. I have trust issues now when it comes to relationships. Lindsay's lies and manipulations made me doubt my own perceptions. I find myself constantly questioning people's motives, wondering if they're being genuine or if there's some hidden agenda. I've been in therapy, trying to work through the trauma of having my marriage destroyed by someone who was supposed to be family. It's a slow process, but I'm gradually learning to trust my own judgment again. The hardest part has been seeing Baron move on while I'm still stuck. Through the grapevine, I heard he's dating someone new. Someone Lindsay introduced him to, of course. Meanwhile, I haven't been able to open myself up to a serious relationship. The fear of being hurt again is still too strong. There are days I'm consumed with anger and bitterness over what Lindsay did to me. I fantasize about exposing all her lies and manipulations, about Baron finally seeing her true colors. But I know that's not healthy. I'm trying to focus on moving forward instead of dwelling on the past. I've reconnected with some old friends who have been wonderfully supportive. I've taken up new hobbies like rock climbing and painting to keep myself busy. Slowly but surely, I'm rebuilding my life and rediscovering who I am outside of my marriage. If there's one silver lining to this whole awful experience, it's that I've learned to advocate for myself. I spent years trying to appease Lindsay, doubting my own feelings and perceptions. Never again. Now, I trust my instincts and stand up for myself, even if it means rocking the boat. To anyone else dealing with toxic in-laws or family members trying to come between you and your spouse, my advice is this. Present a unified front. Don't let them divide and conquer. Set firm boundaries together and stick to them. And most importantly, believe in yourself and trust your own judgment. Don't let anyone gaslight you or make you doubt your own experiences. I wish I could go back and handle things differently with Lindsay. I wish Baron and I had been strong enough to weather her attacks together instead of turning on each other. But I can't change the past. All I can do is learn from it and try to build a better future for myself. Some days are still really hard. I miss the family and life that I thought I would have. But I'm also proud of how far I've come in rebuilding myself. Lindsay may have destroyed my marriage, but she didn't destroy me. I'm still here, still fighting, still believing that someday I'll find real, lasting love again. For now, I'm focusing on myself, loving myself, and creating a life that I'm proud of. Lindsay took a lot from me, but she can't take my strength or resilience. I refuse to let her lies define me any longer. My story isn't over. It's just beginning a new chapter. Here are my thoughts about the story. Lindsay, girl, what is your deal? I swear, as I was reading this, I kept picturing her as this Disney villain twirling her mustache in the corner. Except instead of a mustache, it's probably some overpriced lipstick. And instead of cackling, she's probably sipping a $15 latte while she plots her next move. The level of manipulation this woman pulled off is honestly impressive in the worst possible way. But here's the thing that really got to me. Baron, my guy, the one that was supposed to pull through for his wife. Or maybe I've been reading too many stories about husbands that are actually worth keeping around and treating like a king. Dude, what were you thinking? I get it, family is important, but come on. Your wife is telling you repeatedly that your sister is causing problems and you're just brushing it off like it's no big deal? I wanted to reach through my screen and give this guy a good shake. Hello, Earth to Baron, your wife should be your ride or die, not your backstabbing sister. And let's talk about that Thanksgiving dinner scene for a hot minute. I don't know about you guys, but if someone talked to my significant other like that at a family gathering, they'd be wearing that pumpkin pie instead of eating it. The fact that Hannah put up with Lindsay's nonsense for so long just shows how much patience this woman had. Seriously, she deserves a medal or something. Now, I know some of you in the comments are probably thinking, Jake, maybe Lindsay had a point. Maybe Hannah really was bad news. And to that I say, nuh-uh, no way, not buying it. Look at how Lindsay operated, all sneaky and underhanded, spreading lies and manipulating people. That's not how someone who's genuinely concerned behaves. That's how someone with an agenda behaves. The part that really broke my heart was when Lindsay used Hannah's fertility struggles against her. Like, who does that? That's not just crossing a line. That's taking a flying leap over it and then setting that line on fire. It's cruel. It's unnecessary. And it shows just how low Lindsay was willing to go to get her way. And can we pour one out for Hannah's career? Imagine busting your butt to become a lawyer, finally making it, and then having it all jeopardized because your sister-in-law decided to play a game of destroy Hannah's life. That's some next-level pettiness right there. You know what, though? As messed up as this whole situation is, I gotta give props to Hannah for how she handled it. 2 years out from this dumpster fire of a divorce, and she's made partner at her firm? She's out here focusing on self-improvement, trying new hobbies, going to therapy. Hannah, girl, if you're listening to this, you're a freaking rock star. To all you viewers out there, let this be a lesson. If you're in a relationship, you and your partner need to be a united front. Don't let outside forces, even if they're family, drive a wedge between you. And if someone's spreading lies about you, shut that down fast. Don't let it fester like Hannah did.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.